Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Creating Tailwinds Podcast by FlightPath Financial with your hosts, John Urbick and Jared Adams. Join us today as we discuss the power of infinite banking. And here we go.
Greetings, John. Welcome back. Another awesome episode planned. How are you today?
Jared, hello. Good morning to you. It's a beautiful day, and we're so lucky. We've got Jolena Bryant with us today.
Welcome, Jolena.
Yes.
Thanks for having me.
Oh my gosh, yes. Jolena is the subject matter expert on all things air traffic control, and she's going to talk to us about the transition from being an air traffic controller and a supervisor, and then on to how those skill sets transitioned perfectly with infinite banking. So tell us a little bit about yourself, Jolena, if you would.
Yes. I have been a controller or in the controller environment for over 18 years. Past almost two, I've been a supervisor in Atlanta Center. The way I found out about the career, I was actually working for the city of Atlanta as a admin assistant. And the former admin assistant had actually transferred to the airport and came back to visit and brought a aerial map of the flight pattern at the airport, which, I don't know. I have flown a few times and I was familiar with the airport, but I never really looked into the background of the operation of airplanes and controlling and none of that. And so when he had the basically the flight pattern of the airport drawn out on the map, and it was just so cool to me. And he was like, "Oh, this is where my boss lives, right here in relation to the flight pattern." And I just thought it was the greatest thing, and I'm like, I'm going to do that.
Great
So
story.
I had to go to school for it, and so I did all that, and then now here I am.
And how did you find the training? I mean, you're going from something completely different. So for those aspiring controllers out there, should they just go for it? What do they need to be successful in that space?
Yeah, absolutely. And now the requirement is different. You don't have to go to school before you get hired. They will hire, as they say, off the street for air traffic control. You just have to go through a series of testing to see if you have the aptitude for it. It can be very rigorous and it is very stressful. But the training, it takes 3 to 5 years especially in a center environment, and especially in Atlanta, where the volume is and complexity is as high as it is, or the busiest center in the world. So.
Well, to take words right out of your own mouth, in the control room, chaos is not an option, right? And so neither should be for your finances. And one of my favorite stories from an air traffic side of view is I've got a bunch of really good friends that are controllers, whether center, whether TRACON. Some of the most enjoyable conversations I've ever had about aviation are with those folks. And it starts off as literally a WTF question. Why are you doing that? I don't know the other side. Why are you doing that? And then they'll take a couple of seconds to go, yeah, I understand why you're asking that. And this is why we do it. And then you're like, oh, mind blown. Now I understand. And the same thing happens on the other side. They go, these stupid pilots, why do they keep doing this? And we go, well, this is what they're seeing on the other end. This is why they're doing it. And they go, oh, that makes so much more sense. So I love this opportunity to kind of mesh the controller and pilot on both sides. Like, obviously extremely professional on both sides of the scope, doing the best we can to move planes from one side of the country to the other. But we're inoperable without the other party. Without air traffic, we get nowhere. Without pilots, you guys don't have a job. Like, we are dependent on each other. And yet there's such type A personalities between those. It always shows up as this little kind of fun fight, but there's zero fighting that goes along. When I get one-on-one with another controller, I love the conversations. So I only use that as a launch point to say, I'm excited where these conversations go. I love to kind of get behind the scenes and hear what you have to say on both the financial side and the air traffic side. So, I mean, I'll take the
Okay.
opportunity to just say thank you for being with us and thanks for being a part of
Absolutely.
just just building the 10%. That's what John and I are here to do, is build the 10% of folks that understand infinite banking concepts. So as we pivot a little bit from air traffic, maybe to your infinite banking side, would you let us know, maybe we don't want policy numbers and policy amounts, right? But we would love to know, how did you find infinite banking?
I was reading a book. I forget the name of it exactly, but it was something about the Rockefellers.
What
Um,
would the Rockefellers do?
what would the Rockefellers do?
Yes.
That's right.
And and in that, it just kind of explained what they did in their life insurance policy and how they set it up with, with their kids and everything, and how the legacy was able to pass down and not get depleted. Whereas, I read a book about maybe the Rothschilds, I think it was, or somebody else. And a few years later, when I'm trying to transfer it over, I got a couple $100 in cash value in it, right? And
Yes.
so,
Yep.
and
I
then
remember.
I switch it over, and in just the last 2 years that this policy, I've got the majority of all of the premium that I paid pretty much available in cash value. And so just in that little bit of time, exactly, just in that little bit of time, I can see the difference in the value of having a high value cash value policy, just like that infinite banking policy. So
It's an awesome
I
story.
that's
love
the
that.
I
difference.
love
Yeah.
it. I
Yeah,
love it. I
it's a
love
great
it.
description. Very
And was
cool.
it
And it
easy?
also highlights, oh,
Go
sorry,
ahead.
John. I was going to say, it also highlights the difference between, working with someone that may not understand infinite banking concepts and working with a practitioner, the difference that you are seeing in your actual policy.
You talked about in our discussions, going from the control room to the bank, why control matters. Talk about control.
The systems in place for air traffic are such, and still evolving because things change. That the United States has the safest air traffic control system in the world. Part of I guess, the work ethic of being an air traffic controller is relying on these systems every clearance. Like every clearance has a format to it. For the most part, there's really little deviation from that in order on purpose to keep everything in line and safe. And it directly correlates to your financial, I guess, life flight plan. If you don't have a system in place as well, that you've got all this money coming in, living paycheck to paycheck is not uncommon, even for high income earners. I think that infinite banking is, at least for me, is it kind of brings a lot more structure and just something on autopilot that
Right.
I can turn to when I have some kind of chaos going on, and just pull from that, and all the benefits that it has, that it's still liquid, that it's not taking from my principal. Obviously you have to pay it back, but I'm still more in control than I would be if I was trying to go to a lender or my credit cards or something like that, where I'm just throwing away all this interest instead of keeping it to myself or adding
How
it
how
back.
hard did you find that process, Jolena? How difficult did you? I mean, is this hard
To do what?
to
Which
do
part?
to bank with infinite banking? Is this a difficult thing to do?
I don't think so.
How many dollars that you make do you actually touch? Think about all the money that every person makes and boil it down to the me level and the you level, and you say, okay, how many of those dollars do I actually get to touch? They're
Mhm.
gone before you even get to them because somebody
Yeah.
else is pulling that money. And the system you're talking about, and it is infinite banking, is a system, not a get rich quick scheme. It's not, none of that. It's not an investment. It's a cash management system where you keep control instead of giving that control to somebody else, and you benefit because now you're recapturing all the interest that you were paying to somebody else. is going into the system that you control and you own. Pretty
Mhm.
nice.
It is
Yeah, I
nice.
was
And
going to say the same thing. Is that
go ahead.
what I hear from you in that response and what you're saying is, you know, it seems so simple to say a controller would then need control, right? It's easy to just spit that out, right? But what you're saying is you get control over your capital. You don't have to rely on the bank. You don't have to rely on a system. You don't have to
Right.
rely on something else to do good or do well in order for you to succeed. You are controlling your capital. And
Hmm.
I know that that's a, you said a paycheck to paycheck scenario with the amount of money that's coming in. It's actually, I agree, it's quite common. And, to imagine that you could have something set on autopilot, to have it set up where you can still control your capital, I know that would bring a lot of intrigue. I know if someone heard that, if they were willing to just kind of step outside the box and think a little differently, I know that they would be intrigued. But it doesn't always work for everybody. So I would really, I love your description of that, how it's an increased amount of control. It's truly you taking over your own finances.
Hmm. It is.
And so maybe would you just give us a quick breakdown of what you think infinite banking means to you?
Absolutely. Um, it is a process. It is a system for saving money and becoming your own bank. If it's properly structured, life insurance policy, and
Yep.
it's not something that you can just get from any insurance company or agent. But I like, John, how you had mentioned earlier that it's not a get rich quick scheme. It is a process, and it does take some time and some intention. You have to commit to it, but you will in the process see the value adding. Where you see where you're headed, and it gives you that encouragement to keep going. And
That's not showing up
definitely,
really well. It's getting blanked out. Here's
it
step
is. Put
one,
it in your. There
becoming
you
your
go.
own
Put it right
banker.
there. Becoming Your Own Banker, that book is instrumental. That's the book that I read after the Rockefeller book,
Yes. Yes.
that goes so into detail about the infinite banking method, and just gives you actual numbers that you can look at and examine, and picture for yourself how it could work for you, as far as like financing anything that you need, not just emergencies, but your own car, your own house, your college education, anything that comes up, anything planned or unplanned that you need to finance, you can use your own cash value policy for. And
So would you say it's a get rich slow scheme instead, maybe?
I
Because
guess
you can, if you give it the juice, you're gonna get the go,
I
you
get it
know?
right. Yeah, yeah.
And
Just believe in the process. Just like with being a pilot and a controller, there's a lot of trust, and like in those situations where you've got emergencies or stuff going on, that trust is what gets people through. Is that I trust you to do what you're supposed to do, and you can trust me to do what I'm supposed to do in order to get you to the other side. And I think that is a really good way to kind of go through this, especially with, the advocates of infinite banking. They're not just trying to get paid. I want to teach you.
right.
I know that you guys too. I want to teach you and introduce this concept to you so that you have knowledge of another way where you can keep your money and
At
not
the
That's
end,
right.
throw it to other people.
That's right.
That's basically what the
And
banks are doing, is they're using your money and your interest to make themselves right, make themselves richer. And instead of that, you're breaking the cycle of that, and you're keeping it and giving it back to yourself. And that's the key part.
amen to that. Well said.
beautifully.
Well said. How could a high income earner be living paycheck to paycheck? And obviously, everybody has their own struggles, their own, their different walks in life, how they handle finances even is very different among different people. But any context that you might be able to add on how you end up there, like if you're making 200 plus a year and still living paycheck to paycheck, what would you start to peel back in terms of layers to understand where that's all going and how it got there and how much money you're losing to someone else's bank?
Mm-hmm. And it's very common. It's very common. Um, Income is not directly correlated to wealth,
Yeah,
unfortunately, when you don't
sure.
have the system in place to help you keep it. And it's just, as I mentioned, it's just a cycle of spending that you can't figure out how to break, because no matter how much money you have coming in on the paycheck, you are spending. You owe this, you owe that, and you owe this. And it's not just what you borrow, but also the interest on top of that. And so that interest just eats away at all the excess cash that you have. And so you have to, at some point, just pick a number that you can commit to start breaking away from that, and it's and
Oh, I
it's
really like that.
it's not
That's a
going to be
great way of saying it.
it's not going to be fast, but you have to start committing to it, and if you look at how banks are started, you know it took them time as well to get to where they can, okay, I can lend you money, I can lend you money, I can lend you money. And and then I'm accumulating all this. It takes what, 7 years for the infinite banking to really be where you want it to be. But you are still putting into it, and you can still see the value rising, and your availability of using your cash value rising along with it. And so it does really give you some encouragement to keep going at it. And you can kind of see the light at the end of the tunnel. Like, okay, if I keep at it, I will have wealth, and it'll be mine, and I can borrow however I need to, and then pay it back as I need to too. And then and it still continues to grow. And I think that is part of the benefits and misunderstanding that a lot of people either don't know or forget, is that it is your principal is always protected, even if you borrow. But as you pay it back, you have never lost that principal, and it's still growing exponentially on top of whatever you borrowed, or I'll say in spite of whatever you borrowed, because that's just how life insurance policies are. Like, if you borrow, say, a certain amount, say 200,000 out of your account, and you, God forbid, you pass, whatever you took out will just come out of your death benefit. And so it'll still be recovered. And so but you want to keep building up that cash value, and taking out of it and putting it back, or just adding to it and watching it grow is kind of is the fun
Jolena,
part.
what would you say to those people out there that are saying, I can't afford to do this. It costs too much money. They see it as an expense rather than a wealth building tool. What would you say to somebody who's going, that I can't do that. I don't have money to do that. How would you help them see that they do have money to do that? What would you tell them?
I would tell them it's worth the sacrifice, first and foremost, and I would also tell them that you can start with any amount that you can. I'll be honest, I have $100 policy on my daughter, right now.
Is
And
that one going up in value, Jolena, by chance?
absolutely.
Yes, it is.
I mean, it's only $100 a month, but still, like, it all adds up.
But in
And
20 years, she's
in
going to have
20
a little
years.
bit of change to work with, won't she?
Exactly, exactly. And so, it doesn't have to be huge to get started. You can start as little as you need to, and you're not tied to just one policy. You can add more than one as your income, or as your fund availability increases. You can just commit to adding more to it, or commit to adding more policies to get to your goal. And
Beautifully
I love
said.
what you said, where you said start where you're at.
right,
We would encourage on our end to make something that's both meaningful and manageable. You start where it's at, and that could be any amount. This is literally a customizable, creatable system that we meet you. That's where Jolena would say we would want to meet you where you're at and understand what your financial problems may be. Everybody has them. Everybody is going to need finance throughout their whole life. Now, the counter would be we don't always need that death benefit. Well, you will someday. I've never heard anyone on their deathbed say, I wish I had less death benefit. Okay, great.
right.
There's, okay, maybe right now, in the short term that you're looking, you don't need a monster term policy, but you
Mhm.
will need finance. You will have to finance something in your house over the next 2, 5, 10, 20 years. Guaranteed. Everybody does. So why not create a system that allows you to control that? So the other
Right.
thing that I got from what you said that I really, really liked was it was the human aspect of it. It was the way you choose to spend your money. If every dollar that comes in is one new creative way to go buy something new and buy something else, this might not be something that fits very well for you. You may have to rethink your thinking a little bit before you start trekking down these paths. But the way
Mhm.
you said was, I'm gonna I'm gonna carve out a space that I know is going to a certain spot. That I mean, that's a rethinking your thinking type of a mentality where you're saying I'm looking long term with this type of stuff. I'm willing to build my warehouse of wealth, but I'm doing so long term and over a small chunk. You mentioned 7 years. Maybe it's 4, maybe it's 12. It varies between people, right? But it reminds me of one of the. I should know the name of the Chinese proverb or Chinese method, right? But they say when you build a business, pour everything you have into the first 5 years. The next 5 years, pour all of your profits back into the business. And it's not until year 10 that you can think about if maybe taking some funds away from the business. So when you look about, if you look at it from the aspect of you're setting up a business and it's taking you 10 years to do so, that really helps the mindset as well. But it's long-term thinking. This is not a short-term get rich quick like we've already agreed earlier.
And I think it also needs to be said about you are financing stuff, whether you're doing it yourself or not. And so can you really afford to not start doing it yourself and paying your own interest back? Because you are paying interest regardless. If it's your credit card, if it's your mortgage rate, if it's your, auto lender, whatever bank you choosing, you are still paying that interest. Don't you want to get it back at some point? And so you have to
Yeah.
start somewhere. And you don't realize how much you end up paying in interest and how much it really affects your your wealth building potential until you start doing the math. And I encourage everyone to look at the interest that they're paying on everything that they're financing, credit
A
cards,
common thing there is, well, I pay
all that
cash for
stuff.
everything. I don't pay any interest. I pay cash. All right. Well, what could you have made with that cash?
Right.
That was the
Eternity
cost.
cost. Yeah. Yeah.
That's correct. And you
Right.
can always look at there's a lot of different ways to look at opportunity cost, but if you're just I pay cash for everything type of person, cool. What would you have made with that money had you been able to and put it in something that was interest bearing while putting it to use for your purchase as well?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Jolene, we talked about, and that was a great point, Jared. One of the thoughts that I was thinking about when you were talking about the one side of the economic spectrum, somebody with not a lot, where do they begin? And just start with something. What about those people who've got considerable wealth and they're saying, I'm too sophisticated for this. I got plenty of money. I'm here, I'm there. Would they benefit from infinite banking? I already know the answer, but maybe you could address that. People have stout incomes.
I believe so. Absolutely. I think that the way that they can set it up initially, um, they would have availability of funds still, and also be able to increase their principal over time. And I just think that it it is part of a diverse portfolio.
Well, you're a businesswoman. You're very experienced in that area too. How about business owners? Would this be helpful? How can they employ the infinite banking concept to help them build their business?
Yes, there's business policies among owners, and I guess
But the infinite banking specifically, could
Mhm.
how well does this marry into that operation?
It marries very well. You obviously have to set it up properly as well, as far as um, if you've got partnership or however, but it applies the same way, and you can still use it the same way for your business as you can individually.
Do you have to wait 3 or 4 weeks for a loan committee to approve your money from your contract for your business?
No, this is the same
No.
process. It's online. You go and you look it up and you say, I need to get this amount of money out of my policy to do this with, and they direct deposit your check.
Pretty easy.
Pretty easy. Very easy.
And one of the other things you mentioned earlier was that you're a supervisor at the center. How would you apply the supervisor mentality and the role in a leadership of your own household's finances? How do those come together?
Yeah. When I became a supervisor, my focus shifted from managing traffic to basically guiding people, and leading them to uh, basically stay on the path of abiding by the system, staying calm in the emergencies, and helping them to remember, just all the processes that come up in certain situations so that we still have a calm system. I apply that also to the infinite banking concept, is that I don't want to sell a product. I want you to learn and to gain knowledge and be reminded of a system that will work for you, that does work, as far as your goal of creating wealth, as far as having a legacy for your kids, of doing and financing whatever it is that you have in mind that you are trying to achieve. And so um I'm out of actual management, more I mean managing airplanes, to managing people. And so it's uh it's it's not a huge shift as to go into the financial world with the same type of management of, or not management, but just kind of leading and reminding people of their other options, a nice better option for them.
I think it's important
That's
also
very well
to
said.
tell people that Jolena, you are a licensed agent. You started out as a client,
Mhm.
and you took to this like a duck to water. You saw the opportunity, you saw the how it made such great sense, and said, I would like to bring this to more people too, if I paraphrasing what you told me. And so, yeah, anybody out there listening, call Jolena. If you don't call Jared or I, call Jolena. She is very fluent in the infinite banking concept, and we work as a team. So between the three of us, there's nothing out there that you could throw our way that we haven't seen and we can't handle. But Jolene is a tremendous resource for those of you out there listening, if you're in any of these circumstances. Jared,
Completely
what do you
agree.
think?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I love that. I
and she's a
guess
pleasure to work with.
agreed,
Thank you.
agreed.
You as
And
well.
the other thing to add is really just encouragement for you, Jelena, as well, that you've gone so far to have to think outside the box and to create this system on your own with, creating your network around you. If you're the lone duck out on a survivor island, you feel like you've left it all alone. And what did I screw up? And to have the confidence and the vision to be able to make that happen for your family and then want to share that with others, kudos. Like, awesome job on your part, and I can't wait to see what the future brings for you, because it's been a great journey to see so far.
Yes, and thank you, and also John. When I came to you initially about looking into the infinite banking concepts and everything, it was just it's just so eye-opening. It gave me the clarity and the confidence to to keep going and to make it a priority for me. And like now, just a couple years later, I can see the benefit, and I'm so encouraged and I'm so inspired to like pass this knowledge on, that this is why I became an agent, why I want to advocate for infinite banking, and the difference between that and just a normal or different type of insurance policy, so that others can have that same confidence and peace of mind when it comes to looking at their financial future as I'm starting to have.
That's wonderful.
Well, I know from a personal perspective of being in aviation for over 20 years now, when you know the other side of the mic is calm and in control, there is a peace that comes about that is no other. And I know that that's not always the case on every single leg. There's always something that pops up, something that's crazy, something that's outside the box, but there's always a calm voice on the other side. And I love how you've tied that into the financial aspect. As long as you're in control, you're creating the calm, and you're doing the same thing with your personal finances and spreading that to others. So I just think that's a brilliant connection between those two, and I love it.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, it's been an absolute treat. It's been a learning process for me because Jolena has taught me so much about the other side of the industry that I don't get to see, the control room, and uh, wonderful stories, wonderful insights there, and she brings that to the table, all those insights and all that calm into the financial planning world. And infinite banking is better because of people like Jolena, people like Jared. So you guys are a wonderful team, and I'm so grateful to know and work with you both.
And
Well, final
likewise.
words for you, Jolena. Thank you for being here, and thanks for joining us today for another episode of Creating Tailwinds. Um, Final word is yours. How can you encourage folks?
um take control. Take control of your finances and your peace of mind. And, just if you need to, just examine where you are, and you can give either any one of us a call, and we will walk that path and hold your hand and help you to figure out where you are, right? And then just start from there, and start in building your policy with the amount that works for you and the goal that you have in mind, whether it is just financing, or if it's for legacy or death benefit. There's a lot of different areas that you can kind of focus in on, and so just have a conversation with a licensed agent, and go from there. It's really that simple.
Yep.
Thank you.
There we go. All right. Have a great day, y'all. Thanks for being here.
We'd like to thank you for tuning in to today's episode of Creating Tailwinds podcast with your hosts, John and Jared. As always, we welcome your questions and critiques. You can reach us through the Contact Us tab at flightpathfinancial.com. Remember, it's all about how you think. As Nelson Nash has said about infinite banking, give it your close attention, and it can make a radical improvement in your financial future.